Are you getting bored in your Bible study? Are you following some daily guide that's not engaging your mind or spirit very much? Well, I'm here to solve that for you because I'm going to share 5 study methods that's going to just completely change your perspective of how you view the Bible, how you study the Bible, and it's going to make you feel like a seminarian and you don't have to pay thousands of dollars to do it. So let's go. Now check this out. This is something that one of my professors told me at seminary. He said that if you take one book of the Bible and spend 1 month just studying that book for all that you can in that time frame, in 5.5 years, you have done a deep, in-depth study of the entire Bible. That's basically a college degree and it would have cost you minimal. So starting a challenge like this seems, well, rather daunting. You're committing 5.5 years of your life to this task. But I'll tell you, it is worth it. And to make things easy for you, I'd say start in the New Testament. And you can go chronological according to the way our Bible is laid out. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. But if you want to start simple, I would say start with the book of John, especially if you're new to the Bible. And the one resource that I would recommend you get for this is called An Introduction to the New Testament by D.A. Carson and Douglas Moo. And the reason being is because, at least at the time of this recording, the book is around $28. And so for 27 months of study, you're going to be paying $1 per book, or per month, so to speak. And so this is a resource that's going to last you a long time. And it's a great resource because it's filled of facts, history, dates, and just kind of explanation of each of the books. But it's worth every penny. I'll have links for books like this down in the description, and I'll also have one for the Old Testament too. Now, for these free versions, these are the 2 that I would recommend. One, as an introduction for the book that you're going to study, I would use the Bible Project. And second one, and one that every person should have, is the Blue Letter Bible app. And the reason being for this app is because it will have the Greek grammar, the Hebrew grammar in there. It'll give you definitions of these words. They also provide commentary and different versions of the Bible. It's like an endless source of knowledge for you, and it's free. Method number 2, study the scriptures using a cross-reference Bible. And this is what I use every day in my studies. And I'm going to show you how to do it because, well, it's really simple and you'll be surprised how many books that you go through in studying one passage. It's just quite amazing. So check this out. So what you do is you just find a passage. For example, let's do Matthew 4. And if we read through here, like verse 7, it says, Jesus said to him, "On the other hand, it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test." So how do you use the cross-reference Bible? Well, if we look here, it says, Jesus said to him, "On the other hand." You can see that there's this small 1 in front of "on." Well, if you look at what verse you're reading, go to the middle of the page in this column section, and you can see this verse 7 has a 1, says literally, again. So Jesus said to him, replace that with again, it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test. Well, here we see another little symbol, the little lowercase a. You shall not put the Lord your God to the test. A lot of times that indicates a reference somewhere else in the Bible. And here it's showing Deuteronomy 6:16. And so you can go back to Deuteronomy 6:16 and you can read that verse in the context that it was written in. And so that's how you can use a cross-reference Bible. And there you go. Now you're off to explore the rest of the scriptures and how they interlink with each other. And did you know, just for a fun fact, that there are over 340,000 cross-references inside the Bible itself? You know, out of these 66 books, each of them, in one way or the other, talk about the other one or quote the other book. And this is just an example of how a complex book with many writers like this, talking about the same theme without contradictions, must have some divine orchestrator to put this together harmoniously. Method number 3, word studies. So maybe you're coming across a verse as you're reading the Bible, or maybe one of those cross-references brought you to it, and you're just curious on its meaning because maybe it doesn't make sense, or maybe you're just curious of what the original writer was intending there. Well, you're in luck because there are 2 ways that I would recommend going about finding the meaning of a word. So the first one would be using the Blue Letter Bible app. So all you got to do is look up the verse that you found the word you're stuck on, Click here, go to the interlinear, and find the word that you're looking for. And it'll pull up the meaning and different definitions, different verses that it's used in. And that's the easiest way that I would recommend doing it. Then the second way that I would recommend going about a word study is to get Mounce's complete expository dictionary of the Old and New Testament. And that was a mouthful, but it is a great resource because it will give you an example of that word in the Old Testament, an example of that word in the New Testament, its variations, and kind of a paragraph definition rather than just a one-line dictionary form. Method number 4 is to do a topical study. And this is where actually using the last two methods comes in handy. Because, well, maybe you're struggling in life with something personally. Maybe you have issues with anger. Or maybe someone's angry to you and you just want to know, well, how do you deal with this? How do you solve your own personal anger issues? Or how do you interact in a loving way to someone who's being angry towards you? Well, this is actually where the last two study methods come into play. Because what you could do is you could bring up your dictionary, you can look up that word, and it'll give you some different passages to read about this topic. You can look up the meaning and its different variations. Sometimes it may apply to the situation that you're in. But it'll do a good job of giving you a general explanation of anger in this case and how to deal with it. Or, let's be real, sometimes us humans are lazy. And we'll just go to good old Google and just type in 10 verses on how to deal with anger. And there you go. Investigation's already done. But where's the fun in that? Okay then, well, method number 5 is to do a character study. So maybe you're reading through the book of Acts and you come across a guy named Saul. And you keep reading and all of a sudden this Saul guy turns to Paul. And then you keep reading through the New Testament and you find out that Paul wrote most of the New Testament. So you want to do a character study. And as you're doing this character study on Paul, you pull up resources like that Introduction to the New Testament by D.A. Carson and Douglas Moo. You look up cross-references throughout the New Testament by other authors like Peter, who spoke of Paul. And as you're studying about who this guy Paul is, you end up asking other questions like, wow, he was a Pharisee. Well, what is a Pharisee? So then you start looking up, what is a Pharisee? Well, they're also similar to Sadducees. Well, what's a Sadducee? And you can see how this keeps building on your learning as you just study a person in particular. And so that's study method number 5, is to pick a character and study them. Well, I hope that this was helpful to you. And if you learned something new from these 5 study methods, do me a favor and hit that like button for me. And if you want to learn more about the Bible and knowledge that surrounds it, consider subscribing to this channel. Until next time, be blessed.